The Green Party made history with the election of Hannah Spencer in the Gorton and Denton by-election. This is Hannah's victory speech.
Okay, bear with me, because this is a lot. I didn't grow up wanting to be a politician. I'm a plumber. And 2 weeks ago, during all this, I also qualified as a plasterer. Because even in chaos, even under pressure, I get things done. I am no different to every single person here in this constituency. I work hard. That is what we do. Except things have changed a lot over the last few decades, because working hard used to get you something. It got you a house, a nice life, holidays. It got you somewhere. But now, working hard, what does that get you? Because talk to anyone here and they will tell you. The people who work hard but can't put food on the table, can't get their kids' school uniforms, can't put their heating on, can't live off the pension they worked hard to save for, can't even begin to dream about ever having a holiday, ever. Because life has changed. Instead of working for a nice life, we're working to line the pockets of billionaires.
Hannah also had a message to the Muslim community.
To our Muslim communities who this week suffered an attempted attack during Ramadan, whilst I was being welcomed by women at a mosque in Longsight, someone just down the road walked into a mosque carrying an axe. And whilst we were gathered and eating together, an act of terror could easily have taken place. And I can't and won't accept this victory tonight without calling out the politicians and divisive figures who constantly scapegoat and blame our communities for all the problems in society. My Muslim friends and neighbours are just like me, human.
I love that because she actually called out the politicians. Of course, there was the horrific attack, which could have been much worse, but she called, and let's mostly talk about Matt Goodwin. The disgusting and hateful rhetoric we have seen, and we're going to definitely break this down, by the way, and I love that she used that for her victory speech. Now, we also have an exclusive interview with Zack Polanski.
How are you feeling?
I mean, I'm feeling absolutely elated. This is both amazing for the Green Party, but most importantly for Gorton and Denton. I think it stretches further than that, though. This is the Green Party's 126 target seat. So suddenly there is no-go areas for the Green Party. There's no such thing as a wasted vote. We have proven we can both stop reform and we can stop this awful Labour government and do it in a propositional way by offering to lower people's bills, protect the National Health Service and rebuild our public services. We've always known that's a winning combination, but tonight Gorton and Denton showed the entire country what happens when they vote Green. They get an incredible MP like Hannah Spencer, and I can't wait to see her get to work.
And you said in the documentary that you said to Steve actually that you didn't think it was hyperbole to say that the rest of this parliamentary term would be shaped by the outcome of this election. Rachel Millward has tonight said that we're making history. What does the rest of the parliamentary term and political British history look like now?
We've undoubtedly made history. This can transform the face, or this will have already transformed the face of British politics, because actually if you think about the alternatives here, had Labour won, that would have maintained the status quo and would have made things very difficult for any party outside of that old two-party system. Had Reform won, we would have continued on the doom spiral that this country's on right now, with the Labour government even getting worse and taking the worst lessons from it. The Green Party winning tonight does the entire opposite of all of those scenarios. It tells the Labour government that actually people want to redistribute power and wealth around this country. People want nationalised water companies. People want to see an end to the genocide in Gaza. People want to see MPs that aren't corporate lobbyists, surprise, surprise. They want to see MPs who know the value of work, who are genuinely from the community, who will work tirelessly for them every single day. But actually the transformation did not stop today. It's only just starting. Every time Hannah Spencer gets up on those green benches and challenges the Prime Minister, a Minister or whoever it is, people are going to see the power of a Green MP who speaks with authenticity, with compassion and care, and that's going to change the country.
Now, despite polls showing that this was a three-horse race with all three parties in the margin of error, it turned out it wasn't even close. The Greens won 41% of the vote, a massive 12% lead over Reform, who were in second place. Oh, you see that? Labour a distant third on 25%. Oh, only Labour can win here. Well, only Labour can come third. Now, by votes, the Greens won 14,980, Reform far behind on 10,578, and Labour on 9,364. So that's a 4,402 majority. With a turnout of 36,903, which is 47.6%. That means it was higher than the general election. That never happens with 36,580 voters, which is also 46.8%. Now notice the huge drop from the 2019 to the 2024 general election, where 45,000 people, 828, or 61.7% of people voted. It's almost like in Gorton and Denton, if there's a left-wing option, people would vote for it. Jeremy Corbyn was the Labour leader in 2019. They got 60% of the vote. Greens stood in this election and won with 41%. Let's hear some statements from the losers. Matt Goodwin said this.
Matthew Goodwin, you hoped to be Reform's 9th MP. What went wrong? Because it wasn't even close.
Sectarianism. That's what happened. We more than doubled our vote. We're in Labour's backyard. We're the second political force in this seat. We have planted a flag in Northern England. You'll have seen the reform boards up and down this constituency. More than 10,000 people voted for us. We can go on to Labour constituencies across Northern England, into the Red Wall, into Wales. We can win those seats. We will win those seats. Again, the Greens can only pull this kind of result off in a small number of seats. We can do this everywhere. Our ground game is the best game in British politics. We're not resorting to sectarian politics to get us over the line. I think we've run a very professional campaign. I think we've connected with the local people. You know, again, not many British people want legalised crack cocaine and heroin, open borders, scrapping our nuclear deterrent. The reason the Greens have won here, let's be honest, is exactly what that report was warning about a few hours ago. Family voting, otherwise known as sectarianism. Now, we can have a conversation in this country about sectarianism and what it's doing to our democracy, or we can pretend it's not happening. It's clearly happening.
Ooh! Oh, Matt Goodwin's sad. Matt, you got thrashed. Now, he posted that clip on his Twitter, then accompanied it, and then included this tweet. He says, "The British people must reject sectarianism. It is dangerous. It is anti-democratic. It is un-British." Well, Matt, here's an L. This is an L for you. You lost. And you know what? It's an L for everyone at the Labour Party too. It's not the only meme. We actually have another meme. It was posted on our Turn Left account. I have to credit, it was Ben McLean who made this tweet. And he said, "We called it 26 days ago. If anyone wants the lottery numbers, let us know." And this is a meme created by Ben, Hannah Spencer, and Zack Polanski celebrating as Reform are dead. Just take the loss. Now, what has the response been from Labour?
Incumbent governments quite often get results like that mid-term, but I do understand that voters are frustrated, they're impatient for change. And I came into politics, late in life as it happens, to fight for change for those people who need it, the people who need an NHS that works for them, to be able to get a doctor's appointment when they need it, to get the money they need in their pockets to pay their bills, and to have a decent and better life. And I will keep on fighting for those people for as long as I've got breath in my body. I will also fight against the extremes in politics, on the right and the left. Parties who want to tear our country apart. The Labour Party is the only party that unite our country and our communities, and we will line up together in that fight against the extremes of the left and the right for the values that we believe in.
Oh, extremes from the right and left. Now, instead of congratulating Hannah and maybe looking inward, it's accused them of extremism. It gets worse. Starmer wrote a letter to colleagues. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here are some excerpts. "Dear colleagues, the result in Gorton and Denton is deeply, deeply disappointing. Instead of a Labour MP who can be a local champion, delivering for Gorton and Denton alongside a Labour government and a Labour mayor, the people of Gorton and Denton now have a representative who is more interested in dividing people than uniting them. We have to learn lessons from that, and we will. We've seen the true colours of Zack Polanski's Greens in this campaign. The Greens were able to capitalise on an endorsement from George Galloway to win over enough voters to push them over the line. Their willingness to welcome George Galloway's divisive sectarian politics is a sign that the Greens are not the harmless environmentalists they pretend to be. And their position on legalising all drugs shows how unstable this electoral coalition is. It cannot survive a general election campaign. We will continue to warn of the risk the Greens pose, the risk of extreme policies like legalising all drugs and pulling out of NATO. Most voters strongly reject, and the risk of splitting the progressive vote so that reform come through the middle. First thing it says is they're no longer the harmless environment party. And note that word harmless, because have you noticed in the last 6 months when Zack Polanski's massively surged the Green Party, I think they've now hit 200,000 members, they're getting nearly 20% of the polls, they're no longer seen as harmless. Many pundits in the corporate media were saying, we disagreed with the Greens, but we always respected them. We liked them, they were nice, but we just didn't agree with them. But now they're horrible, monstrous, dangerous people. And it has nothing to do with policies and politics. It's simply because they're an electoral threat. What people need to understand is that the policies of the current Green Party is exactly the same as the 2024 Green Party. It's on the same manifesto because they haven't had a conference. They haven't decided new policy. So the policies under Carla Denyer and Adrian Ramsey are exactly the same, right? The Greens have always been in favour of drug reform. For decades, they wanted the legalisation of weed, but no one was calling them scary then, were they? Because they weren't a threat. That's all it is. Now, one of the highlights of the night was Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Lucy Powell, getting grilled by Sky News and getting visibly angry.
All these leaflets here are all about reform, not about the Greens. You've completely missed the fact that the Greens have come and snatched this seat from you by concentrating too much on reform. Shouldn't you have been worried about the threat from the Greens? Haven't you got your tactics badly wrong?
No, well, look, we'll have to take stock on these things afterwards. But as I say, I think there was a clear majority in this constituency that did not want reform to win this seat. I've had hundreds of conversations myself. We've had thousands of conversations, and I know that one of the biggest considerations for people really were grappling with what is the best thing to do in this constituency to keep out reform, and the Greens have been able to win that argument better than we have.
All the signs are here that you've come third, not second. What is the point of saying?
I don't know. I don't know where you're getting your information from there on that, John. But let's see where we get to on that. But there was a clear majority, as I say, that didn't want reform.
Yeah, but it's first past the post.
Yes, of course.
And they've got more votes. Looks as though the Greens have got more votes than you. A seat where you had a 13,500 majority. Your former MP got more than 50% of the vote. And I've just looked it up. It'll be the Labour's 7th worst ever by-election defeat. It's a disaster, isn't it?
What, do you know the percentages, do you?
Not yet, but...
Right, so I don't know how you can work any of those things out. But look, I think... Look, at the start of this campaign, I think the vast majority of pundits and others like yourselves had written us off. But at the next general election, the choice across the country, not just in one constituency, the choice across the country will be between a Reform government or a Labour government, and I think that will focus people's minds in a different way.
I know you voted to let Andy Burnham be a candidate here. You were 1 against 8. Looks like a bad decision, that, by the executive and the Prime Minister, doesn't it?
Well, that's been written about plenty. I don't know that we need to write about that, anymore.
Ooh! Oh, I don't think you know your percentages. She was not happy. She was rattled. But also, it's hard not to be distracted by the monster raving loony party's candidate Sir Unkelot. Let's bring him up. The crying, and honestly, when you're trying to watch this at 5 a.m, look, I was trying to edit this video for tonight's show. I'm just seeing Sir Unkelot doing that. It's very, very funny. You have to laugh. You have to laugh. Now, before the results were announced, the media, along with Reform, tried to cast doubts on the integrity of the election. Record numbers of illegal family voting have taken place at the Gorton and Denton by-election, official observers have reported. Official election observer group Democracy Volunteers says it witnessed the highest amount of family voting in its 10-year history. They said they saw family voting in the majority, 15 out of 22, of the polling stations. They were across the constituency, where there were 45 stations in total. So what is family voting? No one has ever heard of that before last night. And despite the Manchester Council coming out and saying they've observed no issues with voting, the story spread across the media and reform figures jumped on it too. Incidents of family voting in Gorton and Denton reached the highest levels of any election in the past 10 years, says Sky News. This is deeply concerning and raises serious questions about the integrity of the democratic process in predominantly Muslim areas. No one said Muslims, by the way. Funny how he attached that himself. Now, after the results, Farage said this. This election was a victory for sectarian voting and cheating. Yes, that is him literally saying cheating had occurred. Matt Goodwin was a great candidate for us. Roll on the elections on May the 7th. It will be goodbye Starmer and goodbye to the Tory party. Now, Matt Goodwin said this during the night. Given the reports we are reading in UK media about family voting and sectarianism, I am deeply concerned about the extent to which the Gorton and Denton parliamentary by-election is a free, fair and democratic election. I mean, he literally sounds like Donald Trump there. So who are the democracy volunteers? Navarra's Stephen Methven investigates. Maybe I'm just thick, but had anyone heard of democracy volunteers before 20 minutes ago? Oh lol, they turned up in 2023 worried about minorities too? No, sorry, but they are a private company. And then says, guys, they're Lib Dems. And attached to the tweet is a link to a Wikipedia page about John Alt, and it states, John Alt, FRSA, FRGS, is a former Liberal Democrat politician in England. He is now an academic, election observer, and writer. So with zero evidence and a Lib Dem claiming there's a huge spike in so-called family voting, that spread across the entire media with zero journalistic duty to see whether it was credible. So bad that even Dan Hodges from the Daily Mail had it right. And he tweeted, think we need to be careful about the Democracy Volunteers story. Not entirely clear who they are or what their agenda is. Going to be a lot of froth about family voting tomorrow, but I spent the day speaking to a lot of Muslim voters and they weren't voting Green because they were being coerced. They were voting Green because they feel betrayed by Labour and Starmer, just like everyone else. Kemi Badenoch also put out a statement, and here is part of it. Labour created the monster of harvesting Muslim community bloc votes, and yesterday, that monster came back to bite them. As I've said many times before, we are a multiracial country, not a multicultural country. If you stir up grievance politics between groups based on religion or race, as Labour have done for decades, as Reform are seeking to do, and as the Greens have done successfully in this by-election, you are pitting neighbours against each other, and you start to unravel the culture of tolerance that makes Britain great. Our country is not broken, but this by-election showed that Labour, Reform and the Greens are trying very hard to break it. Labour trying to buy people off with more and more benefit spending. Reform telling people you can't be British if you aren't white. The Greens running a nasty sectarian campaign while simultaneously wanting to legalise crack cocaine. Clearly, this election was not about who would be the best MP. This sectarian kind of stuff, we've been hearing about it from Kemi Badenoch, from Keir Starmer, from Reform, the entire media, right? But it's funny that Kemi is talking about sectarianism when this was a Conservative Party broadcast in 2019.
चुनाव फिर से आया है बोरिस को हमें जिताना है चुनाव फिर से आया है बोरिस को हमें जिताना है इस देश को आज बचाना है इस देश को आज बचाना है कुछ करके हमें दिखाना है तो वोट करो बोरिस जॉनसन तो वोट करो बोरिस जॉनसन ब्रिटेन के पीएम बनेंगे बोरिस जॉनसन
And by the way, that absolutely bangs. Now look, this whole sectarian thing is dog whistling. The assumption here is that wives within the Muslim community can't vote unless their husband allows them to, and the result of that would harm Reform. I'm sure Muslim women were clamouring to vote for a party that has constantly attacked the Muslim community, only for their husbands, who are apparently very conservatives, are forcing their wives to vote for a white woman who was a member of a party led by a gay vegan Jew. Schrodinger's Muslim. They're ultra-conservative who would throw someone like Zack Polanski off a building, but also force their wives to vote for them. It's called throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. And all we've heard in the run-up, in the run-up and obviously after the election, is sectarianism. Both Labour, Reform, and along with the media have accused the Greens of sectarian politics because what? They oppose a genocide? Why does no one mention sectarian politics when it comes to Conservative or Labour and now Reform Friends of Israel? Funny that, but opposing a genocide in which most of the British people support, or oppose even, is sectarian. It's simply about the hatred of Muslims, and that Muslims do not have a right to vote, that they don't get to express their political views simply because they're Muslim. Now, these questions were put to Zack, and he called out the media for their Islamophobic rhetoric.
How was legalising drugs, legalising prostitution and greater protection for trans rights and trans people put to a Muslim community in Gorton and Denton?
It was put to a Muslim community and, in fact, frankly, the whole community, because the Green Party just ran an election there where they ran an astounding victory of over 4,000 majority.
Were those particular policies in your leaflets, your Urdu leaflets?
We had Urdu leaflets because people speak Urdu, and we had Bangla.
Those policies, were they in there, Mr. Polanski?
I mean, what's the assumption behind your question here? Because it sounds...
Well, conservative communities might not support some of those policies. We're not here to litigate whether or not they're right or not. I'm talking about conservative communities potentially might not be supportive of policies that legalise prostitution, drugs, and increase rights for trans people.
I think there's some deep assumptions there about what a conservative community is, but here's what I would say more widely. I said it when I became the leader of the Green Party, is you don't need to agree with me on everything. You need to agree with core values and fundamentals of the Green Party and what I'm putting forward. If anyone agrees with me on everything, then that's weird. Actually, what we need to do is build bridges. And look, I'm really proud that a constituency as diverse as Gorton and Denton just voted for a female plumber by a party that has a gay Jewish man as a leader. What I saw on the streets of Gorton and Denton is communities coming together who are excited for an alternative, who want to see those bills lowered, who want to challenge this Labour government. And Manchester showed Reform and its deeply divisive policies the door. And I'm proud to be Mancunian.
Why is the media asking these questions? I mean, the Greens just won a massive victory, a huge landslide majority. So why are they asking what's on campaign literature? It's very odd. And the thing is, though, he's the gentleman asking, well, what policies were on the campaign literature? First of all, you can't put an entire manifesto on campaign literature. Of course, you're going to put the policies that you think appeals to people. That's literally politics. And guess what? The strongest message people feel is cost of living and, yes, a genocide. Guess what? Muslims still need to pay their bills, so that's going to resonate with them. And yes, Muslims are concerned about Muslims and Arabs and Palestinians being murdered and slaughtered in Gaza, which is facilitated by this government. Now, you don't need to be Muslim that cares. I'm a brown atheist. I'm not religious. I'm not Muslim, but I find it appalling. Again, the majority of Brits oppose what Israel is doing. But the idea that, well, this is sectarian politics because there's certain campaign literature in certain communities. Again, all politicians do this. All political parties do it. I mean, it's called getting votes. But also there's an assumption here that Muslims are conservative. Maybe there is a sect of conservative men or conservative Muslim men. Who knows? But at the end of the day, don't the results speak for themselves? They won with the Muslim community. So maybe they were aware of all their policies and thought, you know what, either I support these policies or I don't really care. I care about getting a working class plumber into Parliament. Absolutely insane framing. Now, finally, I just wanted to show you this video because it's funny. Yes, that's Green Party Deputy Leader Mohsin Ali crowd surfing. Callum, you've been on the campaign trail for weeks. You were there last night. Just to start off, I want to get your reaction.
What a night, though. Like, seriously, the atmosphere was incredible in the room.
The whole campaign, the atmosphere has been incredible. And you know what? These attacks, I don't want to dwell on the negative because I am elated, as I'm sure many of our viewers are. And I've known Hannah for a number of years now as well, and she's just a phenomenal human being. And I'm delighted that she's elected. And I'll talk a bit about campaigners and people in a minute. But just to address some of this bullshit that's doing the rounds at the moment, and please forgive me, by the way, because I am, as I said at the beginning, running on no sleep. I witnessed two instances of the Labour Party breaching electoral rules on polling day, or at least one that was definitely the Labour Party and one that seemed very likely to be the Labour Party. One of which was when they parked their campaign bus and left it parked outside of the a polling station in Levenshulme. And actually, I went around to film that to get some evidence of that, and they had their imprint on the side of the bus. And the driver, very conveniently, when he saw me walking towards them with the camera, went around the back of the bus, lifted up the flap, and was looking at the engine as if to say it had broken down. I said to him when I went past, I said, you broken down? He went, oh yeah, I'm just checking it, just checking it. And well, that's convenient, isn't it? A convenient place to break down in a car park outside of a polling station. So that one got reported to the police. And the other one was quite a nasty attack on the Greens that also had some speeches from Labour campaigners playing on it, which was one of these vans that drive around with videos on them, which again was stopping outside of polling stations. And it was actually the presiding officer at one of the polling stations that I attended yesterday who reported that one to the police. So, you know, we had that. We had Matt Goodwin and Reform in the High Court this week as well for breaches in terms of, you know, missing imprints on campaign literature, which they were let off the hook for. It was ruled it was an honest mistake, but they were still taken to court for breaches of electoral laws and electoral rules. So of course they're going to come out with this bullshit rhetoric about voter fraud. The police have said today that there hasn't been any reports. Bear in mind, Reform have apparently reported this, you know, family voting thing to the police. The police have come out. Greater Manchester Police have said that they've not had any reports. There is no, you know, as far as they're concerned, there is no case to answer to. The council have said that the staff that worked at the polling stations didn't witness any of this, and they're very angry that nobody told them if this was going on, that this wasn't raised with them earlier in the day when action could have actually be taken. And it's really convenient for the political parties who have themselves arguably committed, well, not electoral fraud, but certainly breaches of the electoral rules and the electoral laws during this campaign, to make an accusation like this against the one party that hasn't had a report to the, well, out of those three anyway, hasn't had a report to the police, hasn't been accused of breaching electoral rules during the campaign. It's very convenient that all of a sudden, when they realise that they're actually not going to win, that suddenly this thing crops up. And it's just out and out racism. It's Islamophobia. It's this idea that Muslim families are, you know, the men in these families are forcing their women, the women in their lives, their wives, their children, if they're adults, to vote a particular way, or else, you know. And no, what it is it's the fact that Reform UK don't like the fact that Muslims have a vote, because they don't want brown people to be able to have a say in democracy. That's what it boils down to. Complete and utter racism. And you know what? The fact that the Green Party won this with such a majority of the vote, like the numbers are insane all throughout the campaign. Everybody, Reform, Labour, although they're talking out their arse, and the Greens were all saying that it was neck and neck. It was a close race. And it wasn't remotely close. We were saying all night, we were there at like 2:00 in the morning. We were like, we're going to be here till 6:00. You know, someone told us that the exec centre where they were doing the count, that they had another event in from 6 a.m. so that the count would have to have been finished by 6:00. But we were all sat there thinking, yeah, there's no way we're getting a result before 6, because there's going to be a recount. Of course, there's going to be a recount. And then we heard that the counting was done, and then we heard that we were just waiting for the candidates to arrive, and we were all sort of like, wait, no recount? What? Because there was 4,000 votes in it. It's too many votes for there to be a recount. Of course they're going to bullshit and you know, plant the seeds. But what was really telling actually during the night, we were celebrating long before we knew the result, because it was pretty clear what the outcome was. That clip that you've shown of Martin there doing the crowd surfing, that was before we had the result. You know, that was a pre-celebratory celebration. Because we had the Sky News feed up, And we saw the look at that clip that we've just shown of Lucy Powell. We saw that clip that Sky News were playing on repeat, which was brilliant, seeing just how rattled she was at the fact that, because remember, only Labour can beat Reform in Gorton and Denton, right? Only Labour can beat Reform. So we kind of knew at that point, and they basically conceded the election early in the night, and there was just hardly any talk about Reform UK, and it was like, okay, well, that's good then, if we're not talking about that. I also wanted to say Sky also had Natalie Bennett on, and she got some obviously fantastic cheers from people in the rooms, but she actually pointed something out when she was asked about the policies, and she was asked about something about Gaza, and she pointed out that when she joined the House of Lords, one of the first things that she did when she was in the House of Lords was deal with the motion and deal with an issue about Palestine. And this idea that, the Greens have suddenly just jumped on the Gaza bandwagon to try and win over Muslim votes is nonsense. The Green Party's policies haven't changed from what they've always been. The party has always been a party that's against genocide. And actually, Zack said this brilliantly a couple of weeks ago in an interview. The reason that the party is now talking more about other issues is because amongst the public, the Green Party is the most trusted party on the environment. Everybody knows the Green Party cares about the environment. So we don't need to talk about it all the time because everybody already knows that that's what the Greens want to do. So instead, the Green Party can talk about all the other issues. But yeah, I mean, you might want to come in and interrupt me at some point, Curtis, because otherwise I'm just going to keep rambling because it has just been an absolutely insane few days, certainly towards the end of the campaign anyway.
So is it true that the Greens knocked on 8,000 doors on election day? Because Dan Hodges said, that's crazy, because Dan Hodges said it was the most impressive ground game for a party he's seen in the by-election. So can you tell me, because again, you were there for weeks, how did the Greens compare to Reform and Labour in their in-person campaign, in their ground game?
We laughed last night at the watch party because one of the Sky News reporters had said something about how the Labour Party have broken a record. They've had the highest number of activists out for the get out of the vote ever in Labour Party history, with approximately 1,000 activists, and the room erupted in laughter. Because we had 2,000 people out knocking on doors yesterday in Gorton and Denton. Throughout the campaign, the Green Party has broken record after record. Every single day, more doors were knocked on, more conversations were had, more leaflets were delivered, more people were spoken to than the days before. And I really just want to take this moment to say give a massive shout out to every single not only Green Party member, but any person that came out and campaigned for the party. There were local people that had never been involved with politics, that were not even a member of the party, that came out to campaign. There were members of your party that came out to campaign. There were members of other political parties. There were members of no parties, all coming out to work to get Hannah elected because they knew that she was the best person for the job. The machine that has been behind this. Starmer wrote a letter today, the one that we read some of before, and he talks in it about, the Greens wouldn't be able to repeat this at a general election because they just haven't got the activist base. Bullshit. Of course we've got the activist base. We've just got 200,000 members, for Christ's sake. We're slowly becoming one of the fastest growing political parties in Britain. And we have people now. We've got a hell of a lot more people than we've ever had. And this is just the start. We've got May elections. The cancelled elections have been uncancelled. So we've got even more elections to look forward to in May. And we are going to see a Green surge. History happened last night. And if you're frightened of crack cocaine and heroin wielding greenies, then I've got news for you. We're coming to a neighbourhood near you.
I mean, yeah, Labour are acting as if it's a fluke, because in that letter it's like, well, if they couldn't do it in a general election, but this seat was 127th on the Green list of target seats. It wasn't even a high priority for them in terms of their expectations. So, speaking to the Green activists and high-profile Green Party figures last night and the last couple of weeks, but especially last night after the results, has their expectations been modified again? Are they now even more ambitious?
Oh, 100%. I mean, in the documentary that we put out last week, I think I used the clip. Hannah had said that when she first, like 4 weeks ago, when she first was selected as the candidate, she had sort of thought, well, maybe if Labour had selected Andy Burnham, then they would have probably walked it. But after a week of talking to people, she was saying, well, actually, no. Even if Andy Burnham had stood, the Greens think they would have won this election, because the disdain for Labour in the constituency is through the roof. But it's the same pattern that we're seeing everywhere else in the country. People are not happy with Keir Starmer's Labour Party, and the reason for that is because people didn't elect him. Labour got in, as we know, when we, going back to that wonderful night of the elections of 2024, when we were doing that live stream, every night the numbers were coming in. Every constituency, when the numbers were coming in for, we were looking at them, comparing them to 2019 to 2017, and time after time after time, Labour were winning seats with lower votes than they got when they lost the seat the year before, the election before, and that is proven now in what we're seeing with the by-elections, whether it was Runcorn and Halsby, where Labour lost 10,000 votes from 2024 to the by-election. That apparently that's the fault of the Green Party, according to Lucy Powell. But remember, only Labour can beat Reform in Gorton and Denton. And then obviously, in this by-election, but also in a lot of the council seats as well that we've seen where there's been other by-elections, people are just fed up with the Labour Party. And if they want to, point the finger at the Greens and say, I mean, this word that Kemi uses about, harvesting votes from the Muslim community. No, going out and talking to people in your communities. Oh, you're cheating. You put out campaign material in Urdu. Well, yeah, some people's first language is Urdu. And that, by the way, doesn't mean that they don't speak English. It just means that their first language is Urdu. So why not put campaign material out in the language of some of the people that live in that community? The whole point of campaigning for, to be an MP is that you are going to represent the community that resides within the constituency boundaries. And if that community includes a number of people whose first language happens to be not English, the vast majority of them also do speak English, by the way, why not campaign and put material out in their language, like the Conservatives proved with that wonderful Boris Johnson song that I'd never seen. Yeah, it's I've forgotten what you asked me, to be honest with Curtis, but what was the question?
It was quite an open-ended question. I mean, I did say, has the ambition gone up? I mean,
oh yeah, no.
First
Well,
of all,
it absolutely has. And
go on.
the thing is that, I mean, I remember going to an event with Natalie Bennett about maybe 12 months or so ago, and she was talking about, maybe at the next general election, like we want to have like 30 target seats, but we've just won. I mean, there were so many numbers bandied around last night. Was it 127th on the list? Was it 180 something on the list? There was a few different numbers that people were banding around. But point being, if we can win that, there's hundreds of seats that we had a much larger chance of winning prior to that are now up for grabs, right? Like,
well, 100 according to their list, 126 seats that are more likely for them. They think they could win than what happened last night.
Let's have them all. And the real lesson for me for the night is twofold. The good people of Gorton and Denton rejected Labour. They also rejected Reform. And we saw, well, we what we could see of Matt Goodwin's tears behind our logo in the video earlier. But Matt Goodwin was fuming. He honestly believed that he was just going to come in, spout a load of racist nonsense, insult a massive number of people within the constituency with his veiled Islamophobia and dog whistle politics, and expect that they'd come out and vote for him anyway, and that he'd walk into Parliament on Monday and have a wonderful jolly time in his new job. And it didn't happen. He was robbed by, and you know what I think annoys him the most. And this, I've got no evidence of this, and I don't want to be accused of slander or whatever else. But you know what I think annoyed him the most? The fact that it was a woman. A woman who's a plumber. A woman who is a plumber who rescues greyhounds. A woman who is a plumber who rescues greyhounds, who is the most down-to-earth, likeable politician that this country has probably ever seen. And if you've not had a chance to watch the documentary that I made, it's on the channel. Go and watch it. 30 minutes or so it is in length. Following Hannah on the first couple of days of the first sort of big weekend of the campaign trail. Watch that and tell me that she's not relatable, that she's not down to earth. And that pisses these people off, because why wouldn't you vote for the normal, relatable person rather than the TV personality who is happy to share nonsense Daily Mail articles smearing other candidates, despite the fact that he himself's got a ton of money in the bank and, is representative of the millionaire class? Like, come on, of course you're going to vote for Hannah, the blonde plumber who rescues greyhounds. The greyhounds, by the way, I have been assured by sources close to the greyhounds that they might maybe be making an appearance at Westminster at some time.
Is that a Turn Left exclusive?
No, but I do have a Turn Left exclusive for you, actually.
Go on then.
You may remember Owen Jones did a series of Vox Pops in Gorton and Denton.
Oh God, so you're going to review? Okay, yeah.
And and there was one particular Vox Pop with a lady who was very angry. She wasn't going to vote for the Green Party because they left a door open in a cafe. Well, I can exclusively reveal here now tonight that it was actually myself that left the door open of the cafe. It was Cafe Plus. Hannah and Zack had been doing an interview with our friends at Novara Media, and I was shooting the documentary, and I was the last one out of the door. So I apologize to that lady. If she would like to, if she sees this and she'd like to reach out, by all means, I can apologize to her in person. And I also apologize to the Green Party for any harm or
losing a single vote
that single vote might have caused to the election. But yeah, so Owen, if you want to interview me for an article about it, hit me up.
Yeah, we kept that secret for a couple of weeks, didn't we? And I was like, oh, should we say it? Should we not say it? Election's over, 4,000 majority.
In my defense, right? It was one of those doors that if it's pushed all the way open, it locks open. But if it's even slightly not pushed all the way, it closes. It closes itself. And over the weeks since then, nearly every single time I've walked past that cafe, the doors have been propped open anyway. So, think of that what you will. But I do.
Of all the days it was supposed to be closed, you leave it open.
I know, but for what it's worth, I was there that day in my capacity as Turn Left Media, rather than in my capacity as a Green Party campaigner. So it wasn't a Green Party activist on that day technically that left the door open. It was a member of the media.